When a neighbor mocked Muhammad Ali's debilitating illness on live TV, few could foresee the powerful response that would not just silence a bully, but redefine courage itself. What happened next challenged the world to rethink the very nature of strength. In the heart of Louisville, the city that had watched Ali rise to greatness, the atmosphere had shifted. The once admired fighter, now grappling with Parkinson's disease, faced daily battles, both internal and external. Across the street from Ali's modest home stood a man named Roger Miller. Known for his loud personality and even louder opinions, Roger had never been one to shy away from controversy. It was during a late-night talk show that Roger unleashed a tirade against Ali, belittling his condition and calling him a shadow of his former self. The comments lit a firestorm, echoing through the community that loved the champion. Ali, however, was not just a fighter in the ring, he was a fighter in life. As news of Roger's mockery spread, neighbors gathered to express their outrage. "He's a coward for saying that," said Loretta, a longtime friend of Ali, shaking her head in disbelief. The streets buzzed with indignation, yet Ali remained calm, his demeanor resilient even in the face of such a public insult. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your comment. And there's something very important: click the hype button. This helps a lot to deliver this content to more people. It's quick, but it makes all the difference. While most would expect Ali to retaliate fiercely, he instead chose a different approach. He understood that his strength lay not in the ability to throw punches, but in how he responded to adversity. The next day, he called for a press conference, determined to address Roger's comments publicly. The anticipation built throughout the town. Many wondered how Ali would handle the situation. On the day of the conference, a crowd gathered outside the venue. Reporters, fans, and curious onlookers filled the seats, eager to hear from the man who had once stood atop the world, now battling a disease that robbed him of some of his most cherished abilities. As Ali approached the podium, his trademark grin was replaced with a serious expression, yet the warmth that radiated from him drew everyone in. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady, though softer than before. "It's easy to point fingers and make jokes when you don't understand what someone else is going through." He paused, letting his words settle. "I have faced many opponents, but this illness is my most challenging fight yet. But don't mistake my struggle for weakness." The crowd erupted into applause, tears streaming down the faces of many who had watched the great champion. Roger, sitting in the back of the room, felt his heart sink. Ali continued, "Strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. I choose to fight this battle with dignity and grace." His words resonated deeply, carving a path through the anger and frustration that had fueled the community. He spoke about the importance of understanding each other's struggles, urging listeners to show compassion rather than contempt. Roger's laughter, once a source of disdain, faded in comparison to the powerful message that Ali delivered that day. As the conference concluded, Ali felt a sense of relief wash over him. While he had faced mockery and misunderstanding, he had also stood up for millions grappling with their own battles. Little did he know, this moment would lead to an awakening in their neighborhood, one that would cultivate empathy and mutual respect among the residents, forever changing the fabric of their community. As the crowd slowly dispersed from the community center, the lingering applause echoed in Muhammad Ali's ears, a soothing balm to his recent wounds. He felt a renewed sense of purpose flood through him, igniting a fire he thought had dimmed with his illness. As he stepped outside, the sun cast long shadows of the afternoon, creating a backdrop where hope could thrive. Yet in the back of his mind, he was acutely aware that Roger's taunts were but a reflection of deeper sentiments shared by some in the neighborhood, and he would have to navigate that complex web. While he made his way down the familiar street, voices from nearby homes rang out. Neighbors who had shunned him before were now whispering about the strength Ali had shown in the face of adversity. Some were surprised at his resilience, while others were moved to reconsider their own attitudes. A sense of camaraderie hung in the air, but Ali knew it was fragile. A single misstep could lead to another eruption of mocking laughter or disdain. "Hey, champ! You were great today!" shouted an enthusiastic elderly woman, Caroline, peeking out from her porch. Ali waved back, his heart warming at the unexpected kindness. Caroline had been one of the friends he lost contact with, her laughter silenced by the rumors and negativity that had surrounded his illness. "Thank you, Caroline. I'm just trying to do my part," he replied, offering a genuine smile. As he continued to walk, he felt the weight of many eyes watching him. A mix of awe and uncertainty filled the air, and he realized he was being viewed not just as a boxer, but as a man choosing to fight against the stigma of his condition. In the weeks following his conference, Ali decided to organize a community gathering at the park to foster understanding and open dialogue. He wanted to create an environment where fear could be addressed openly, where neighbors could share their stories without the risk of humiliation. This initiative would not only help him heal, but would also give others a chance to confront their biases and fears. He reached out to several people, including Caroline, who eagerly rallied support from friends and family. Together, they put up flyers around the neighborhood, inviting everyone to come together for an afternoon of conversation, food, and games. Ali was determined to make the event inclusive, ensuring that every voice was heard. As the day approached, tension began to rise in the community. Whispers of resentment surfaced in small groups. Some still held on to the belief that Ali had become a public figure simply to garner sympathy. Roger, too, was increasingly vocal. "What's the point? He's just using this illness to promote himself. It's all a show," he declared one afternoon while chatting with a few men on the corner of their street. Ali caught wind of these conversations and felt the familiar pangs of hurt wash over him. The challenge now was not only to reach those willing to listen, but also to penetrate the armor of skepticism that shaded the hearts of skeptics like Roger. On the day of the gathering, the park buzzed with activity. Families brought food. Barbecue grills smoked while children played on swings, laughter intertwining with the scent of grilled meat. Elise stood at the center, feeling a mix of anxiety and excitement thrum through him. He knew this event could be a turning point, not just for him, but for the community itself. As attendees began to gather, he noticed some familiar faces, hesitant at the edges. He approached them with open arms, offering warm greetings and kind words. "Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's take this chance to understand one another better," he said, demonstrating a genuine interest in everyone. His humility drew people closer, and eventually the conversations began. A synergy formed in the park as stories flowed, tales of struggle, resilience, and even laughter. Neighbors revealed their vulnerabilities, and as Ali listened, he felt an intense relief wash over him. The more he shared about his journey, the more they opened up about their own hardships. However, Roger's presence loomed, and undercurrent tensions simmered just beneath the surface. Ali knew that for true change to take root, he would eventually have to confront the harsh reality of Roger's unyielding jibes. Yet, for now, he chose to focus on the community's positive shifts, hoping Roger might read the atmosphere and rethink his approach. Despite the challenges that lay ahead, Ali took pride in the connections being forged, and he began to feel an unwavering hope that perhaps this gathering could indeed rewrite the narrative of their small community, turning mockery into understanding and division into unity. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the park, Ali felt the communal warmth of shared stories envelop him, but the tense presence of Roger still lingered, weighing on him. After the event, as people began to leave, Ali spotted Roger lurking near the park's entrance with a small group of onlookers. The laughter that erupted from them sent a chill down Ali's spine. Roger, emboldened by the attention, was clearly taking jabs at Ali, mocking his physical struggles as he feigned boxing stances. "Look at him, the greatest of all time, huh? What a joke!" Roger laughed, his sarcasm slicing through the air like a knife. Ali's heart sank, hearing the laughter, but he steeled himself. With a deep breath, he reminded himself that unity had taken root today, and he couldn't let Roger's venomous words jeopardize the progress. Turning to a nearby family, he invited them over for a final chat, momentarily diverting his focus away from the negativity. "You know, regardless of what anyone thinks, today was about us coming together," he said, his voice steady. The family nodded, grateful for his perseverance, their support bolstering him. But the evening wasn't over, and as the sun sank below the horizon, Roger laid down the ultimate challenge. "Hey, Ali, why don't you show us what you've got, huh? Or are you too weak to even throw a punch?" The taunt was loud enough for those in the park to hear, drawing a crowd of curious faces. Ali's stomach twisted at the challenge. He could feel the intensity in the air shift, and curiosity morphed into a collective anticipation. It would have been so easy to ignore Roger, to walk away, but Ali knew he couldn't. Navigating the thin line between dignity and the desire to stand his ground weighed heavily on him. With a determined stride, he approached Roger, sensing the encouragement of the onlookers. "You know, I may not move like I used to, but I still believe in standing up for what's right," Ali declared, his voice strong yet calm. "This is about more than just me. It's about showing kindness, even when faced with mockery." The crowd murmured, surprised by Ali's approach. Ali seized the moment, hoping to turn the tide. "I challenge you to a different sort of fight. Let's have a discussion about strength. Let's talk about why people feel they need to belittle others." Roger laughed derisively, but then, as if caught off guard, he paused. The subtle shift from mockery to a more serious tone bewildered him. "What do you mean, talk? You think I care about that?" "I do," Ali replied, his voice unwavering. "You might not see it now, but true strength comes from vulnerability and understanding. We can fight in the ring, but wouldn't it be better to fight for unity instead of against each other?" For a moment, silence enveloped the crowd. Ali's words hung in the air, challenging everyone to reconsider their views. He felt the tension shift as neighbors exchanged glances, and Roger's bravado began to fade. But instead of backing down, Roger shot back, "Weakness disguised as wisdom. You think you can lecture me?" Ali faced him squarely. "This isn't about lecturing, Roger. It's about creating a space where no one feels they have to hide behind jabs or insults. We're human. We all hurt. We all have our battles." The audience remained rapt, witnessing the confrontation, but also the deeper dialogue emerging. Ali's heart raced, driven by the momentum of his own words. This was no longer just about him and Roger. It was an opportunity to redefine what it meant to be strong in a world that often celebrated sheer power over compassion. Yet, as the tension escalated, Ali realized that this verbal sparring could easily spiral into chaos. He needed to prepare for whatever came next, whether it was a sudden outburst from Roger or an unexpected turn from the crowd. The stakes felt higher than ever, and Ali knew it was crucial to maintain control of the narrative, his narrative, where the fighting spirit transcended physical prowess and became an embodiment of resilience and hope. Ali stood firm, the weight of a crowd's expectation pressing down on him like a heavyweight championship belt. The heated exchange with Roger had ignited a fire within him, not just to defend himself, but to redefine the very concept of strength in a world that often equated toughness with cruelty. The room buzzed with anticipation, and he could feel the collective breaths of his neighbors, their curiosity piqued, their loyalties tested. In that moment, Ali realized he needed to shift the narrative. "You know, Roger," he began, his voice steady but compassionate, "it's easy to throw punches when you're standing outside the ring of someone else's life. It's harder to step in, to really understand what we all face. I've fought my share of battles, but those experiences taught me that true strength shines not just in victory, but in vulnerability." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Ali could see glances exchanged as faces reflected varying degrees of support and skepticism. Roger's bravado seemed to waver, but only slightly. "You think you can redefine strength for me? That's a nice story, but it doesn't mean anything when the world keeps pushing back," he challenged, his voice infused with anger. With every word, Ali sensed the stakes rising. The neighborhood was divided, and Roger's mockery had uncovered deeper wounds. "No, it's not about redefining, it's about recognizing. Everyone here carries a story. We all have struggles. I'm not above anyone. I'm simply trying to share what I've learned through my own pain." Ali took a step closer to Roger, the once formidable distance between them now evaporating. "You mock what you don't understand. But I promise you, if you dare to understand, you might find that we aren't that different after all." His voice held a new depth, resonating with raw honesty. The crowd hung on his every word, their tension mixed with the promise of something transformative. Ali felt a surge of confidence. Perhaps this was the moment he had been waiting for, a rallying cry for unity rather than division. Roger crossed his arms, his expression conflicted. Ali could see he was struggling, wrestling between his ingrained hostility and the undeniable truth laid bare before him. "And what if I'm not interested in understanding? This is how the world works, Ali. You fight, or you get left behind. Fighting doesn't have to mean just physical blows." Ali replied softly. "True fighting is standing up for one another. It's confronting our own fears, our own biases. What do you gain by continuing this feud with me? Only bitterness will remain." A ripple of agreement spread through the crowd as some neighbors began nodding, their faces betraying an internal struggle with Roger's words. Ali sensed hope blooming, but he also felt the danger of the moment slip past him like a jab he couldn't dodge. It was now or never. He needed a plan to channel this conversation into something real, a chance for healing, not hostility. Turning to the gathered neighbors, his tone shifted to one of warmth. "Let's start a dialogue. A real one, where we share our stories instead of our insults. I know what it's like to be judged, to feel like the world has written you off. Let's unite over our shared human experience instead of tearing one another apart." The atmosphere thickened with potential, but Roger's face darkened further. "You think people will just listen? You think you can change hearts with words alone?" "Maybe not everyone," Ali admitted, "but I have to believe some will. We owe it to ourselves to at least try. I was once a young boxer starting out, surrounded by doubters, but I learned to rise. If I can rise, so can all of us." Roger's brow furrowed, and Ali knew he was approaching a pivotal moment. Could he make Roger see that every person in the room held a piece of the path forward? The challenge loomed, but Ali felt an electric charge in the air. This was the moment of vulnerability he had been waiting for, where pain transformed into purpose and weakness morphed into an unyielding strength. He had to make a choice, to retreat into the shadows of fear or to step into the light of communal understanding. Ali steeled his resolve. He would fight, not with fists, but with heart. It was time for a shift, one that could potentially change the fabric of their fractured community. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood, Muhammad Ali felt the weight of anticipation pressing down on him. The crowd had gathered, an uneasy mix of curiosity and skepticism swirling in the air. He had spoken from his heart, but would they respond? The tension was palpable, like a stretched wire ready to snap. Roger stood in the back, arms crossed and expression hard, a living embodiment of doubt. If Ali hoped to break through the barriers of scorn, he needed more than just words. He needed actionable steps. "Listen, everyone," he said, gathering his thoughts as he looked at the faces staring back at him. "Stories unite us, but they mean nothing if we don't take the next step. Let's create a book, our book. Each of you can write your story, your struggles, your victories. We'll share it with the world. It could become a beacon of hope for others." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the crowd. A few shrugged, while others exchanged glances filled with uncertainty. Roger scoffed openly. "A book? You think we're some sort of literary club? Nobody cares about our sagas. People are busy with their lives, Ali." "And that's exactly why we need to speak up," Ali pressed, his voice rising. "People are suffering in silence, just as I have. This book could help others find their voice, inspire change. It's more than just a collection of stories. It's a lifeline." As he spoke, Ali felt a spark ignite within him, fueling his determination. He could see the flickers of intrigue on some faces, the lines of skepticism softening. Yet he knew that with Roger in the room, the challenge was far from over. "I'll help," a woman named Martha chimed in, stepping forward from the crowd. "I've always wanted to share my battle with addiction, but didn't know how. If Ali can fight back, I can too." The sentiment spread like wildfire. One by one, others stepped forward to share their struggles. A father talked about overcoming job loss. A young mother recounted her struggles with mental health, and soon a chorus of voices echoed through the gathering. The shared stories began weaving a tapestry of connection that he hoped could bridge the divides Roger had sown. But Roger remained unmoved, a storm cloud in an otherwise brightening sky. "This is all talk. You'll just end up disappointed. The world isn't interested in your sob stories. You think they'll see you as heroes. You're just a bunch of failures." The words hung in the air, like an ugly stain. Some in the crowd stiffened, doubt creeping back in. Ali knew that Roger's cynicism could derail everything they were building. "Let's prove him wrong," Ali declared, stepping closer. "We can show the world our strength through our vulnerabilities. We aren't just victims of circumstance, we're warriors in our own right. It takes courage to share these stories, to stand up against the world's judgment. Who's willing to join me?" A sense of camaraderie began to wash over the crowd. Ali could see flames of hope flickering in their eyes, even as Roger's face twisted in disbelief. The chorus of agreements grew, more people eager to take the plunge into vulnerability, to share what was often hidden. "Fine, let's say we do it," Roger sneered, his tone dismissive. "What's the point if nobody reads it? It's just words on paper." "The point is to find our voices," Ali countered calmly, refusing to back down, "to matter. Together we can create a movement. There is strength in numbers. We will take that book to every local event, every library. We'll make them listen. Sometimes it takes one voice to start a revolution. What we have is power, real power." As Ali spoke, he could sense a shift. The weight of Roger's doubts was lifting. He saw a few more heads nodding, shoulders relaxing. Encouraged by the collective commitment, Ali pressed on. "Tomorrow at the community center, let's meet again. We'll start writing, sharing, and building this project. I'll be there with my story. Will you?" An awkward pause followed, then a series of affirmations echoed back. Heartbeats synchronized to a newfound rhythm of hope. It was clear now the community was ready to heal, ready to fight back, not with bitterness, but with unity. As the crowd dispersed, Ali felt a burden lift. He realized he had found a new purpose, one where isolation transformed into support. He was not just fighting for self anymore, but for a community that desperately needed its voice. The battle ahead was daunting, with Roger still lurking as a dark spectre. Yet he felt something unfurl within him, a promise whispered in the winds of change. Together they could rise. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the community center's windows, the air buzzed with anticipation. The following day was set for a pivotal town meeting, one that Muhammad Ali had envisioned as a chance not only to share stories, but to unite the voices of those who felt marginalized, just like him. The collective energy sparked excitement and trepidation. This was their moment to stand up against Roger's relentless ridicule. Ali arrived early, his heart pounding with both nervousness and determination. As he surveyed the room, he was struck by the motley crowd that gathered, young parents, elderly dreamers, and teenagers burdened by neglect. Each face carried its own story of struggle, just like his own, and he felt a surge of responsibility to guide them through an experience that had the potential to inspire. "Good morning, everyone," Ali greeted, his voice resonating like a bell over the chatter. The noise subsided as his presence commanded attention. He stood, his figure casting a reassuring shadow on the weary attendees. "Today, we share our stories. Today, we become a chorus that no one can ignore." As the meeting progressed, Ali introduced the concept of sharing narratives, emphasizing the power that lay in their experiences. One by one, community members took turns at the front, revealing deeply personal accounts of struggle and resilience. A single mother spoke about working 3 jobs to feed her children, while an elderly veteran shared tales of his battles both abroad and at home. Their words hung in the air like a collective heartbeat, raw and unfiltered. Then it happened. Roger, having learned of the meeting through the grapevine, stormed in uninvited, a sneer plastered across his face. His presence was met with palpable tension. "What a joke," he mocked, his voice slicing through the tender atmosphere. "A group of misfits hoping to make a difference? You really think you can just sit around and talk your problems away?" Ali stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "This is not about talking it away. It's about acknowledging our pain and finding strength in our stories. We will not back down just because you think we're weak." Roger's laughter rang out, but it was hollow. "Strength? You call that strength? You're nothing but a punchline." The community shifted, unease rippling through the crowd, yet instead of breaking, his derisive tone became a catalyst for determination. Ali's heart raced as he observed the reactions. He turned to the group, his voice growing stronger. "We're not here to entertain ignorance. We're here to stand firm in our truth. Every word spoken today is a step toward reclaiming our dignity." With palpable resolve, a man in the back stood up. "I'm done being silent. Roger, you don't own this space. We do." The crowd erupted into cheers, supportive voices blending into a powerful wave of unity. Ali felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the turning point. He had ignited the fire within them all, a flame that could not be snuffed out. "Let's show our strength, not through anger, but through our stories. Together, we can transform this community." In that pivotal moment, the atmosphere shifted entirely. What had begun as an intimidating confrontation turned into a rallying cry. The community began sharing even more passionately, recounting their experiences of resilience, not as victims, but as warriors of their own narratives. Each story added a layer of courage to their collective identity. Roger's laughter faded, drowning in the sea of voices that stood against him. By the time the meeting concluded, the room was alive, each face glowing with newfound strength. They had transformed from an audience into a movement, one willing to stand against judgment and ridicule. Roger stood as a residual shadow, still blustering, but the collective resolution had grown too strong to be undermined. Ali knew this was just the beginning. As he exited the building, he felt the weight of possibility. The world might have once seen him as a man diminished by illness, but today he stood as a beacon of hope, someone who had turned laughter into power. The road ahead would be challenging, but with his community beside him, he was ready to forge a new path, one where their voices would echo loud and clear, drowning out every sneer. The sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple as Muhammad Ali stepped out of the town hall, his heart still racing from the energy that had filled the room moments earlier. After the meeting, the once dingy community centre seemed aglow with renewed purpose, as if its very foundation had been shaken awake from a deep slumber. People were smiling, shaking hands, and exchanging numbers, eager to support one another in this new chapter of solidarity. Ali walked down the street, thoughts swirling like the autumn leaves that danced in the cool evening breeze. He felt the weight of history in every step he took, not just his own history, but that of every single person who had stood up and shared their stories. He had seen the strength in vulnerability, how each voice added depth to their collective strength. They were transforming their fear into courage, their pain into purpose. But as he made his way towards his home, the laughter of his neighbor, Roger, echoed in his mind, reminding him of the insidious doubt that still lingered. Though the meeting had been a success, the world outside hadn't changed. Roger was still there, a haunting reminder that ignorance often wore the mask of bravado. The next day, Ali decided to take action. He organized a community picnic, inviting families to join in, celebrating their newfound unity. He believed this gathering could further solidify their resolve, showing Roger and anyone else who mocked them that their strength lay not only in words, but also in their connections with one another. Flyers were posted around the neighborhood, and soon enough, the excitement was palpable. As the day approached, Ali noticed something remarkable. Friends and neighbors who once barely spoke were now sharing recipes, planning games, and discussing how they could better their community. The laughter that rang out in the streets was different now. It was genuine and full of warmth, a stark contrast to Roger's sneering. On the day of the picnic, the park buzzed with life. Children ran around, their laughter filling the air, while adults set up tables and decorated the space with colorful ribbons. Ali stood back for a moment, soaking in the scene. He marveled at how resilient the community had become. They were no longer just individuals struggling against the tide. They had formed a formidable force, a tapestry of stories woven together with purpose. As the crowd settled down to eat, Ali took to the makeshift stage. With a warm smile, he addressed the gathering. "Look at all of us today. This is strength, not the kind that comes from mocking others, but the strength to lift one another up." His words drew applause, and the energy surged again, igniting a sense of pride in every heart. But then the mood shifted slightly as Roger appeared at the edge of the park, hands on his hips, eyeing the gathering with disdain. He strode toward Ali, looking to provoke a scene. "What's this? A circus?" he scoffed, his voice dripping with contempt. A hush fell over the crowd as everyone braced for confrontation. Ali stepped forward, his demeanor calm but resolute. "This isn't a circus, Roger. This is a celebration of community and resilience. We rise, not just for ourselves, but for each other." He gestured toward the people around him, who weren't just listeners, but participants in a change. "If you want to knock us down with your words, it's your choice. But remember, our laughter and stories are stronger than your mockery." Roger paused, his bravado faltering at the sound of the crowd rallying behind Ali. The faces that once looked down hunched were now lifted high, determination etched in their features. One by one they began to speak up, sharing their own tales of struggle and triumph. The cacophony of their voices grew, drowning out Roger's jeers. In that moment, Ali recognized that the laughter had shifted. It was no longer an echo of mockery, but a powerful call for respect and understanding. As Roger's face turned from mockery to confusion, Ali felt a lightness in his chest. They had turned his illness into a beacon, illuminating the path to compassion, understanding, and strength. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Ali stepped down from the stage, heart swelling with pride. He had not just confronted the source of ridicule, he had transformed it into a rallying cry for kindness and community. With each cheerful voice that rang out, Ali knew they had all taken a step towards healing not just themselves, but the fabric of their lives. Reflecting on the day, he was filled with a sense of fulfillment. The journey ahead would never be easy, but the strength they now possessed was undeniable. They had found their footing, a powerful coalition that reveled in shared experiences. Each individual story contributed to their collective strength, echoing the message that true courage lies in standing together against adversity. As he walked home, the laughter of children rang through the air, carrying a message of resilience that resonated deeply within him. Ali smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. They were no longer defined by their struggles, but by the strength that emerged from their unity. So, what did you think of this story? Leave your comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share with your friends, and don't forget to like. But most importantly, click the hype button. Seriously, this is crucial for the channel to grow and bring more amazing stories like this to you. It only takes a second, but it helps a lot. See you next time.